Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, your existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett. And once again, I am robcasting at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations episode 670 on our march toward episode 700. I can't believe it. 700 episodes of this show, all because of you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity. Don't we all love it? We had a great Zoom call. I can't believe, for those of you, you might have been tired of my voice, but for members, we did a 6.5 hour Zoom call on Saturday, and I want to thank everybody for hanging out. That was loads of fun. I didn't expect to go that long. I mean, wow, don't expect that to happen again, but it certainly was fun. It was great meeting all of you. Some of you I had not seen face to face before, but that was great. We all had great conversations, and that's terrific. If you want to become a member of the channel, hey, it's only you can be a member at any level you want, but to get in on the Zoom calls, it's only $1 a month. To support the channel, you can just click on that button, the join button. And I gotta say, I mean, these Zoom calls are great. I wish we could do shows like that where I'm just talking to people. It was pretty amazing. You know what else is amazing? Well, what's amazing is The Flash started shooting today. Andy Muschietti, director of It and Mama. The Flash started shooting today. A movie I never thought would happen. A movie that we've been joking about for years. How many directors, how many screenwriters, how many people have come and gone through this movie? But nope, we do have The Flash is finally shooting. And one of the more interesting elements of this film is that it was announced it would be a multiverse movie. And Ben Affleck's Batman and Michael Keaton, his Batman, Michael Keaton, would be returning to play Batman again, an older, a wiser. He hasn't played Batman, well, since the early 90s. He began, obviously, the first time we saw Michael Keaton as Batman was in the summer of 1989 in Tim Burton's first Batman movie. And yep, he is coming back. However, last month, he threw a little wrench into the works. He said because of COVID, he probably wouldn't come back, or it was reported or whatever. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Michael Keaton is indeed returning to the Flash film. We've got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness just wrapped over in London. We've got crazy multiverse stuff happening over in Spider-Man No Way Home coming out by the end of the year. And now it is confirmed DC is going full-on multiverse with multiple iterations of the Batman in the Flash movie. Will Cyborg return? Who knows? Dogs and cats are now living together. We're living in a time of mass hysteria, and I'm all there for it, which is very exciting. My old friend Humberto Gonzalez reports today in The Wrap that, yes, Michael Keaton, by the way, this dropped at 1:17 in the afternoon today, a little less than 2 hours ago. Humberto Gonzalez writes in and says, yes, in The Wrap, he writes, yes, Michael Keaton really is playing Batman in The Flash. Michael Keaton's talent agency, ICM Partners, has confirmed he will return as Batman in The Flash. The superhero film officially kicked off production in London on Monday, as revealed in an Instagram post from director Andreas Muschietti. As The Wrap first exclusively reported, Keaton was in talks to return to the role of Batman after nearly 30 years to appear alongside Ezra Miller in Warner Brothers' The Flash. Of course, Ezra Miller was first introduced as The Flash in a brief snippet in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And we also just saw him in an expanded role in Zack Snyder's Justice League. But Keaton set the fandom on fire last month when he hinted in an interview with Deadline he might not do The Flash because of his concerns about COVID-19. To be honest with you, You know what worries me more than anything about all this stuff? It's COVID, Keaton said at the time. I'm more concerned. I keep my eye more on the COVID situation in the UK than anything. That will determine everything. And so that's why I'm living outside the city here on 17 acres, staying away from everybody else, because the COVID thing has got me really concerned. So that's my first thing about all projects. I look at it and go, is this thing going to kill me? Literally. And if it doesn't, then we'll talk. Keaton first played Batman in Tim Burton's 1989 blockbuster of the same name, which was a critical and financial success that changed how superhero films were viewed and paved the way for the genre's future box office domination. Keaton's casting was initially controversial among fans, as he was primarily known for broad comedies, but his performance, particularly how he used his comedic background in his portrayal of Bruce Wayne to differentiate it from Batman, was widely praised and is now recognized as a seminal moment in comic book films. Keaton last played Batman in 1992's Batman Returns, but quit the role during development of a third film after Burton was pushed out as director and replaced with Joel Schumacher, who took the series in a campier direction with 1995's Batman Forever and its reviled 1997 follow-up, Batman and Robin. The Flash will disregard the latter two entries entirely and explore what Keaton's version of Batman has been up to since we last saw him. Loosely based on the 2011 DC Comics crossover event Flashpoint, previously announced as the film's title at Comic-Con 2017, the story sees Ezra Miller's Barry Allen travel back in time to prevent the death of his mother. The result? Allen inadvertently creates another universe protected by Keaton's Batman, now 30 years older. The Flash will be released on November 4th, 2022. You know what? As a longtime comic book fan, I love all this stuff. I mean, the Flash of Two Worlds and the Jay Garrick Flash, and of course everybody knows the multiple Flashes now because of the TV show, the CW TV show. But I grew up with multiple Flashes. I always loved the Flash character. I love the cosmic treadmill, and I love the Flashpoint storyline that they're referring to. There's even an animated film that's actually quite good. One of the DC animated movies, The Flashpoint Paradox. The Flashpoint Paradox. It's a good movie. I liked it. If you don't want to pick up the graphic novel, you should check it out. They even tied in a little bit of Batman, the Button, all that, with bringing the Watchmen in. Craziness, but good stuff. Really enjoyed it a lot. And I'm just happy as a comic book fan. I read this and I'm like, I used to think that there were some places that they just wouldn't go. The multiverse being one of them. Nope. They're going full on. I mean, everyone's going in all in with the multiverse. DC is doing it. Marvel's doing it. To me, the multiverse is really a DC thing. It became a Marvel thing, but to me, it was always really a DC thing, because as a kid, I would have the crossover between the Justice League and the Justice Society of America. They did an annual crossover in the comics, and there was always that kind of, well, they're 30 years behind, like Earth 2 is 30 years behind Earth 1, or it was different, the development was different. And I loved seeing Barry Allen team up with Jay Garrick, the Silver Age Flash. I loved all that stuff as a kid. So to see this in a movie, I'm just like, wow, man, I can't believe it. I mean, I can believe it, but I can't believe it also. It's just a cool little thing. I mean, I have to give it up. We're in a world where literally anything is possible. When it comes to comic book adaptations, science fiction films, I mean, the fact that we're getting Dune and the Foundation trilogy, or the Foundation, Asimov's Foundation, the beginnings of that as a series. We're getting Dune for a third time, but the Foundation for the first time. I can't believe it. I mean, it's just fantastic that the tools, the technology, and the people, the filmmakers are around that want to tackle this material, and it makes everything so exciting. And I can't tell you how much I am looking forward to this Flash movie. And Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton meeting in the film, my God. Talk about a Flashpoint paradox. I'm there for it. So, not a lot of great entertainment news dropping. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff. I love the Shang-Chi trailer. We talked about that on the John Campea show. I'm a huge fan of Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu. I love the Doug Mensch, Paul Gulacy run in the comics that you can get in omnibus form that predated Doug Mensch and Bill Sienkiewicz's run on Moon Knight. Shang-Chi was an Avenger. Love the character, and I thought the movie it's going to be terrific. And of course, my boundless man crush on Tony Leung is unabated. Seeing him as the Mandarin, maybe he's immortal. We see him with long hair as a warrior. I love that. I love that whole idea that Shang-Chi, I mean, he's kind of, I guess he's the Mormon version or something. Yes, you get to go out into the world and live your life for 10 years, but then you have to come back to me because I own your ass and you're going to go to work in the family business. Also, it looks like there's so many. Fing Fang Foom might be in this movie. What? Are you kidding me? I mean, there's so many Marvel tidbits in that trailer, man. Great stuff. Very, very excited to see this film. And Tony Leung. And Simu Liu looks great as Shang-Chi, and I'm very, very excited to see this. And I think it's going to tie in. I've heard that it takes place during the blip. So we're going to see the post-Thanos world, and then after we come back, after Thanos, after the unsnapping happens, and we're going to see we're going to get a real taste of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think it's going to tell us where we're actually going to be. And remember, we're getting Shang-Chi this year. We were going to get him in July. We're getting him in September 1st, right after Black Widow. So very, very exciting stuff. With that, I'm going to just jump right into people's letters. This is an interesting one. Jermaine, who has written a number of times, Jermaine K. has a letter. And I have to say, Jermaine, respectfully, well, we'll get into it. Hi, Rob. Thanks for reading my previous letters. I just finished Robservations episode 669 and have a few thoughts. Before I dive into them, I want to hit you with a question from classic Star Trek. How do you feel about Maquis, or the Maquis? I think DS9 presents an interesting view of Federation policy and politics through the Maquis, especially Michael Eddington. Yes, it does. I enjoyed the Maquis as it was established in Deep Space Nine. I thought it got a little ridiculous incorporating that into Voyager. I understand why they did it, but the Maquis, the existence of the Maquis, was very specific to a certain sector of space based on Federation and Cardassian policy. Once you remove the Maquis from that situation, they ceased to be, their interests were like, and they quickly got rid of that in Deep Space Nine, in Voyager, but I thought the conflict between the Federation and the Maquis made no sense once they were into the far-flung reaches of the Delta Quadrant. But anyway, speaking of politics, let me jump into the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Full disclosure, Rob, I haven't watched the show. Okay. To be honest, I'm not sure that I will. Count me as one of the people who says keep politics out of a show like the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I believe everyone needs entertainment that is pure escapism. Thanos didn't ask Thor if he was pro-life or pro-choice before he snapped half the universe away. I doubt he cared very much if Jane Foster's friend voted for Trump or Biden as he committed intergalactic genocide. America is smothered in partisan, divisive politics, and it's nice to have some avenues to get away from that. It may only last a few hours, but something is better than nothing. Also, let's be totally blunt here. This will anger one side of the aisle. Why would Disney want to do that? Is Candace Owens going to be on next week? How about Larry Elder? From the little I've seen or heard from them, I sincerely doubt they'd agree with the way race is being portrayed on this show. Some quick information for those in your audience that don't know these names. They're both conservative African Americans that I believe voted for Donald Trump twice. While I agree with you, Rob, that politics have a place in storytelling, going too deep isn't a good idea. It will just invite allegations of being woke. People will start throwing around the word agenda, and unity will continue to be a fleeting concept. I can already hear a friend of mine laughing if I ask him about this. His response would likely include something about China, the Uyghur camps, and Disney marketing deals. Can we have some places in our current culture that are above partisan politics? Pro sports has let that horse out of the barn, and I believe half a century will skip the Oscars. I believe half the country will skip the Oscars for a long time. It's sad to me to think of the MCU being added to the list. I ask again, why would Disney want to do that? Thanks and take care. Well, Jermaine, respectfully, I'm going to have to disagree with you here. It's one thing to decide, like here's my feeling about politics in fantastical or fantasy shows. We're not asking, the Falcon and Winter Soldier are not asking partisan questions per se. What they're doing in the case of the Falcon is they're dealing with overall issues of race in America. And I don't necessarily see race as a partisan issue. I see it more, I guess in my mind, I would call it a legacy issue. We have a problem with especially black Americans. They've never been made equal in this country. They have, even though after the Emancipation Proclamation, I've talked about this on the show a lot, there's never been true equality for the black community in the United States. This is not a partisan issue. This is a fact. And it is backed up by 400 years of history. The fact that, look, when you're dealing with Captain America was a character that was literally fighting Nazis during World War II. Now, is Captain America's portrayal as a Nazi smasher, is that something that could be perceived as political? I suppose. But I think during World War II, it was thought of as being a just war. We had to jump in there. I mean, heck, if we didn't, I don't know if I'd be around. So I don't see an examination of race in America as being a partisan issue. Political, yes, but not a partisan issue, because you're dealing with the plight of people. Now, how you choose to deal with racial issues can be political. But I really think that goes beyond. This show is not talking about that. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is specifically, well, partially, it is about Sam Wilson's journey. He's going through a crucible as to whether or not he is worthy or able of picking up the mantle of Captain America. Steve Rogers thought he was, but as we are learning that it's not so easy. And I think that delving into the complex racial issues in America within the confines of a science fiction, fantasy, or even comic book related show is a way to do it where they can examine these issues and not be off-putting. I mean, some people will say that, well, there's the scene where the cops came to profile Sam Wilson, which was true, but then they turned that scene on its ear. It was Bucky who was hauled away to the pokey. And I don't have a problem with delving into the reality of a situation. If you were going to deal with education in America, or you're going to deal with the homeless in America, these are problems that exist. How we're dealing with those problems can be very divisive and along party lines. But race in America is not anything that hasn't been with us since the dawn of the country, and it's with us even now. And I think that if any place is right to deal with racial issues, it's certainly in a story about a black man taking up the mantle of Captain America. And I think we're dealing also with issues like from the Truth comic that I talked about the other day that have been dealt with in the comics. 35 years worth of Marvel comics. And I think that's when I always point out how Rod Serling was dealing with political issues in the late 50s and early 60s in the Twilight Zone. Star Trek dealt with political issues in the context and the prism of an action-adventure science fiction space show. But you could deal with it because it was happening on other planets. I think we're all the richer when our fantastical entertainment delves into these issues, not telling us what we should think, but presenting points of view that give us something to think about. I think that's the takeaway. And I think that's the joy of this show. It resonates, and it means something far more than what it necessarily needed. I would encourage you to watch this show. I don't think it's banging you over the head. It's not as didactic as it could have been. But also it's asking really legitimate questions. I think other questions, do we need national borders? The Flag Smashers, what do they want? Is that interesting stuff? Is that something that people should be mulling over? I think so. I think that's a really good issue to talk about in the context of a fantasy series. And I think the show is all the richer for it, and we as viewers are enriched because of it. And Falcon or Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, was a story about mass surveillance, which is absolutely a political issue. The Captain America character is inherently about politics. Now, I understand, like, we don't want to grapple with politics necessarily. I think we do so at our peril. I think the real problem is we don't want to think about politics. We don't want to mull these issues over because we're so entrenched in our belief systems that we feel that something that might offer an alternative point of view is something that we don't want to come to grips with. Well, I think that we should. We're no longer taught civics in school as children, which is absurd. Where we learn about our American political system at a very young age. The fact that we're not teaching civics in this country is, I don't understand it. I think, look, we need to know about politics. We need to know how politics works. We have big problems that we're going to have to solve in the next, well, I'm not going to be here in 50 years, but in the next year, the next 5, 10, 15, 20, the next decade, the next century. The fact that we're sad or that we want to move away from politics, what we really all need to do is learn how to talk about politics with each other without, falling into the trap of becoming douchebags to one another. But I understand where you're coming from. I do think that the Falcon and Winter Soldier has delved into these issues in a very intelligent way, and it's surprising, I think. Might not be your politics, but if it isn't, just take a breath and consider what the show is trying to say. And I think it's got a lot of interesting stuff to mull over. Thanks for the letter. I appreciate that. This letter comes from Torsten Parch. Torsten Parch, I think. Hi, Rob. I'm sharing my thoughts on technobabble in New Trek in my first letter. Thorsten. P.S. My browser glitched, so there's a chance I sent this letter twice. On the importance of technobabble. Hi, Rob and members of the PGS. I've been following your channel and community for about a year now. Well, thank you, sir. I really enjoy your open-minded, well-articulated, and insightful analysis and opinions, even in the rare occasions when our shuttles end up in separate shuttle bays. This is the first letter I write in forever, so I apologize if it got a little wordy. I've enjoyed Star Trek all my life. Like most fans of my generation, I started with TOS reruns as a kid, first runs of TNG while in college, continuing all the way to Enterprise. Ever since I saw New Trek, there are a lot of reasons why I cannot enjoy, and as of Season 3, Episode 2 of Star Trek Discovery, stopped watching Star Trek altogether. Most of my reasons have been well established and shared by you and many others. Nonsensical plots that go nowhere, a lecturing narrative, pollen, ladies and gentlemen, underdeveloped characters, missing character arcs, the soap opera-style storytelling, and the acting. The dramatic whisper never fails to make my head explode. But I find the complete lack and disrespect of fictional science in what is supposed to be a science fiction series especially disappointing. To me, one aspect of this fictional science is what people either lovingly or dismissively call technobabble. Technobabble is essential to create a futuristic verisimilitude excuse me, well, of Star Trek. We're really getting into spring here. It's very warm outside. There's, I get hay fever about 2 days out of the year, and for whatever reason, it's starting to hit me. I am allergic to pollen, but as a kid, I had shots, but I still have to deal with, a couple days a year where I sneeze, so I apologize. Technobabble is essential to create the futuristic verisimilitude of Star Trek. Just like entering a Wi-Fi password into one's smartphone to access the internet would appear both impossible and authentic sci-fi to a person from the 50s, well-executed technobabble relies on real scientific principles with some plausible-sounding sci-fi modifications. One great example is the Heisenberg compensator, which, as the name implies, compensates for the uncertainty principle to enable beaming somehow. It makes the Star Trek world feel real when O'Brien checks the compensator, while Barclay struggles to overcome one of his phobias. Good technobabble stays casually in the background and doesn't overshadow the main story, and at the same time, it can be fodder for a fun discussion over a beer or two, if you happen to be science nerds. New Trek writers and producers would not recognize good science fiction if it ran them over with a bus. They clearly don't appreciate science and technology, not even casually. I would even go so far as to postulate they don't interact with anybody who does. As a result, they not only turn technobabble into literal nonsense, but they also rely on it as a deus ex machina crutch for lazy writing. In the most egregious examples, this nonsense becomes the central element of the plot. Red matter, the burn, and space sonar, just to name a few. So when, after the crew saves the day by spouting off a page worths of gobbledygook, the writers double down in a pathetic and tone-deaf attempt of nerd service by adding phrases like, "It's the power of math," or "I like science," I find myself rolling my eyes so hard it hurts. It is hard to imagine how even good storylines would recover from that. I really appreciate your commitment to keeping an eye on the ongoing hostage crisis, so I don't have to. Thank you and cheers, Thorsten. Well, Thorsten, a good letter. I mean, again, I think as the Viceroy of Verisimilitude, I feel you, sir. I really can't stand, science fiction, horror, and fantasy, as we've talked about so many times on this show, must make you believe in the fictional universe. And the way to do that is to set up plausible rules. Whether it's magic, whether it's technology, whether it's the lament configuration used by the Cenobites or whatever, or the people that summon the Cenobites, you need to believe. And all of these rules come out of practical understanding of the world that we live in. All of these believable rules that you establish for fantasy universes must have some kind of analogous reference in the real world. That's why you believe them. You're like, okay, that's plausible. I'll believe that. And usually we're willing as audience members to, again, you're allowed one ask. The show is allowed one ask, one big ask. And if as long as you make people believe in the big ask, your smaller asks, can you believe in a transporter? Sure, why not? That seems plausible. An energy beam that could disassemble you, your corporeal form, beam you somewhere in that energy beam and reassemble you. That seems somewhat plausible, at least to the layman. Maybe if I knew the science, it would be less plausible, but it does seem plausible to me. So you believe in it. Faster than light travel. We don't know how we're going to get there, but in order to take a science fiction show and tell stories that actually make any sense, you have to have faster than light travel. Otherwise, you'd never get to another planet at all. So the vast distances that must be surmounted in a science fiction series, your quick, whether it's hyperspace, whether it's a faster than light drive like on the Battlestar Galactica, whether you're folding space like in Dune, somehow faster than light travel has to be possible in a science fiction universe. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. You're solar system bound. And I don't have a problem with that. It's just, how believable do you make your faster than light travel? And I think everybody does a pretty good job of that because they limit it. Not in Star Wars anymore. Even Star Wars limited how hyperspace worked. But by the time you get to Rise of Skywalker, again, I think J.J. Abrams is one of the most egregious. There's no verisimilitude in and I don't understand. In J.J. Abrams' science fiction movies, Star Trek 09, Star Trek Into Darkness, Super 8, and his 2 Star Wars movies, he doesn't care. All he does is take away the verisimilitude of the universes that he's working in. We've seen 2 examples of Star Trek and Star Wars, and he is the most egregious. I don't know if he understands how to create verisimilitude. And in my mind, part of the reason he destroyed both universes is because of that. He failed to make me believe through many of his choices that he's visually motivated, but yeah, let's do hyperspace skipping. I'm like, bro, that isn't how hyperspace works. You can't come out of hyperspace into the gravity well of a planet. It doesn't work that way. They explained that in Star Wars. He doesn't care. I don't think he knows that they explained that in Star Wars, because if he did, he wouldn't do such stupid shit and figure out a different way to do it. But whatever. Great letter. So thank you for that. Tom Jr. Jackson is here. How are you, Tom? Hey, Rob. So we meet again, this time through a letter. I wanted to address my thoughts on the Falcon and Winter Soldier show on Disney+. First off, the character of John Walker is someone who is fine at first, but as the show goes along, you start to see him change with dealing with the pressure of holding up the brand of Captain America, and while he does that, he slowly shows signs of wanting to do his own thing, and once that fight with the Wakandans happens, he decides to take the serum. While talking to his partner, you sort of see the wheels start to go in motion in the thinking about taking the serum. And then once the above-mentioned fight happened, and he saw they weren't super soldiers, it was at that moment he said to himself that he was going to take the serum, because when the next fight happened, Sam asked Walker what he did, only to witness Walker's partner killed, and the event of Walker taking the shield and practically decapitating the guy who was pleading he didn't kill his partner. The look on his eyes were that of PTSD and anger. Now, when Cap lost Bucky, I don't remember Cap doing anything like that. He took that anger and used it to work harder at bringing down the Red Skull. Now, cut to Walker going up against Sam and Bucky. Walker was paranoid that they were after the shield all along, which was not true, till they saw the signs that something was not right. So comes the epic fight, and they get the shield, and we see Walker go up to a committee, who then tells him he's been stripped of his role as Captain America, and that crazy look goes into Walker's eyes again, with him yelling, "I am Captain America." Now follow me on my thinking here. Do you remember how crazy Emil Blonsky went once he got the serum and he became Abomination? Then I remembered Erskine said to Steve about why it affected Red Skull the way it did, and it was because it was all about the type of person you are that makes the serum work the way it does. It heightened what dominant trait the person has and enhances it. Personally, I think that the character of John Walker desecrated the moniker of Captain America. Yes, I know that no one will ever be Steve Rogers, but it is a hard role to live up to with the standards that he had. Now, I also love how this show has a B story of dealing with racism, but doing it in such a way that is not thrown in your face and it makes you think afterwards. I agree with you 100%. Isaiah Bradley's story is one of truth and heartbreak. Where his story goes is beyond me. How will he accept that Sam has decided to become the next Captain America? So to close my manifesto, letter, I think The Falcon and Winter Soldier is one of the finest shows on Disney+. With WandaVision, we knew it was going to connect with Doctor Strange too, but with The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I honestly don't know where it is going and how it will affect the MCU in the future. Like many of us, I'm excited for the finale. So thanks once again for reading my letter, Rob. Tom Jr. Jackson. Well, Tom, look, I agree with you. The story of race in America has been one that we've never truly dealt with, ever. And we always want to sweep it under the rug. And the Tuskegee experiments were real. And also, interestingly enough, Them is also dealing with the black family. If you haven't watched Them on Amazon, man, that show is tense. What a great sense of dread. Truly is a great horror series that also is very motivated and steeped in race relations, but these things are all real. It's like we don't want to deal with our past. If we can't confront where we came from as a nation, where we expected to go in the future, we're a racist fucking country. We don't like black people. We never have. Now, I'm not saying you personally don't, but I'm talking about as a nation. Our national policies have never been, ever, sympathetic or helpful to black Americans. Now, don't throw the welfare state at me. That's kind of a different thing. And a good thinker, somebody I listen to, Thomas Sowell, a lot of people don't like him. He's a black intellectual, but he has a lot of interesting things to say. But we have a legacy we've never dealt with. The fact that, we're talking about Isaiah Bradley, World War II vet in the wake of Captain America, the fact that he was experimented on. Black men were experimented on for real by the United States government. Now, this is something that happened. So to contextualize it and deal with it through the super soldier serum is a way that we can legitimately have a conversation without everybody going, oh, you're an unpatriotic person. I'm not unpatriotic. I love America, but we've done a lot of bad shit. And I don't think that it's wrong to be aware of that and have discussions about that bad shit, whether you were for it or against it, or you thought it was a necessary evil. I'm not going to say that one way or another, but I do think things like when black soldiers fought for America, to deny them the GI Bill, like every other soldier who fought in World War II that was American, that was a mistake. That's because we're a bunch of racist fucks and we've never gotten over ourselves. And there's nothing wrong to talk about these things or bring them up because they are true. And I don't understand. I don't want to come to grips with that. Well, we should come to grips with it. We should, that's what adults do. You make mistakes. You're now. Do I think there should be reparations for slavery? I mean, that's an issue we could think about, but I also don't think that people should be paying for the sins of their fathers and grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers and great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers. But I do think denying our black soldiers access to the GI Bill is something. I mean, it's an issue I don't yet have enough of an opinion on to render a verdict one way or the other in terms of even my thinking. But the fact is, we have to deal with these things, just like we have to deal with gun violence, which we're not dealing with. I mean, 50 mass shootings in like the last 2 months, and yet we still want our guns. I mean, Americans are a weird bunch. We're a great bunch, but we're also a weird bunch. And for all of our greatness, there's a lot of dysfunction. And I think Falcon and Winter Soldier does a really great job of addressing some of that dysfunction in a way that I think anyone from all sides of the aisle can look at and start thinking about. I know that I've received very many, like yours, your very many thoughtful letters and DMs and missives from all kinds of people about these subjects. And what is most important is that great entertainment gets us talking, having these conversations. And the important part is to not want to kill each other when we're having these conversations, to have real debate. And when we're talking about these subjects in relation to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it makes these subjects more palatable to discuss. Because we're always talking about it in terms of the show. Do we agree? Isaiah Bradley was not really a super soldier, but he represents how many men that were in the Tuskegee experiments, or how many black men that were denied or treated ways they shouldn't have been, how many black men who have been incarcerated for however many decades, even though they were innocent. All of these things are examined, and I think these are what stories do best. They examine these issues so we can start discussing them, so we're made aware of them, so we can understand, even in a fictional context, what people went through. I mean, sometimes it's easier to identify with a fictional character than it is with your fellow American that's standing right in front of you. It's not great, but it's true. And sometimes when we get special stories like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it opens up dialogue that we desperately need to have, but people weren't willing to have it. But when you see it in the context of a superhero show, then maybe those conversations, even with people that are on opposite sides of the fence on these issues, if you're a Hatfield and your friend's a McCoy and you don't want to start shooting at each other, maybe you can just lean on the other side of the fence and have a good conversation based on what you just watched on Friday's finale of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think that means it's good entertainment, and or maybe great entertainment. But thanks for writing in. Appreciate it. This one comes from Ray. Ray says, "Hi, Rob. I've been watching Robservations for quite some time, but this is my first time writing. I really enjoyed your last episode, 669, about Falcon and Winter Soldier and how they've done a magnificent job in incorporating real-life situations into the show, specifically race-related issues. I'm a 45-year-old Army veteran retired. I can absolutely relate to both Isaiah's and Sam's feelings regarding America and its acceptance of people of color. With the discussion of race in mind, I'm curious to know if you've seen the 4-part Raoul Peck docuseries, Exterminate All Brutes. I have not. That goes on the list. See, I love learning about new things from all of you as much as I do about teaching you about things I love. I think it's brilliant. I think it can best be described as a historical ride exploring colonialism, genocide, and white supremacy. I have friends and coworkers of all races and nationalities, and this series has opened up some really interesting dialogue amongst our group. I'd really like to know your take and opinion on this series. Thanks, Rob, and keep giving us that outstanding content. Well, first of all, Ray, it means a lot to me when people put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard for the first time and write in. I love hearing from first-time viewers. I very much appreciate that you appreciated my take on all this. I will definitely check that series out. It sounds very interesting. See, I think, it's through entertainment, or what we call entertainment, whether it's movies, whether it's documentaries. These are the ways that people can learn, and these are the ways that we can appeal to people, I think. And that's why I find entertainment like this, movies and documentaries and good television shows, so important. Because they're not just disposable entertainment. All great entertainment. I mean, pick your favorite movie. Every Star Wars. Forget what it's about. But Luke Skywalker is somebody that, he's stuck on his farm. And he looks at the setting suns every night and wonders, is this all I'm ever going to be? Pulling moisture out of the air and with these evaporators or binary load lifters. No, there's not in an environment such as Tatooine. But we all recognize Luke, all of us, male, female, whatever, however you are, non-binary, trans. If you look at Luke Skywalker, everybody understands. All of us, all human beings, understand that we've all been places where we're dreaming of being someplace better, where our talents are better utilized. Now, that's not necessarily the overarching theme of Star Wars, but when you hear John Williams, the French horn, play that theme, and we see Luke watching the sun set, and we feel that yearning, we all get it. That's what great entertainment does. Even a space fantasy like Star Wars has enough in it that grounds it and makes us understand what's going on. And when we can all see ourselves or understand where the characters are, if we don't see ourselves as the characters, but understand where they're going, because there's basic human truths in even the most outlandish fiction. And that's why I'm such a sucker for verisimilitude. You can put verisimilitude, and that's one of the things that made Star Wars so interesting, was the verisimilitude it brought to the science fiction genre, like 2001 before it. And it's a hard thing to do, but it managed to do so. And that's why I think great genre entertainment can really help us think. So thanks for writing in, Ray. I really appreciate it. Exterminate All Brutes. What an interesting name of a series. I want to see it. So yeah, sounds good to me. Colin writes in, Hey, Rob. I got a chuckle out of listening to your recent discussion of John Walker, his history, and an article written by someone who expressed offense at his portrayal. I never saw Walker as a stand-in for U.S. military, and I'm baffled by the concept. Sam and Bucky are also veterans. Must they represent not only our armed forces, but also a set-in-stone statement on America's morality? I don't even see Walker as a villain. I haven't looked at people or characters as villains or heroes since I was a kid. Ben Stiller, in the little scene Zero Effect, made a great point when he said, "There aren't any good guys. You realize that, don't you? You realize there aren't evil guys and innocent guys. There's just a bunch of guys." I'd remind the article writer of that. He also found the character's creator, Mark Grunwald, and his Wikipedia comments amusing. He sounds idealistic. I never found the MCU Captain America to be a high and mighty man. Let's not forget he covered up Bucky murdering Stark's parents and then proceeded to team up with Bucky to beat the hell out of Stark once the truth came out. He had his reasons, like we all do. I'm just saying the idea of him as a saint is a little overblown. Like you, I don't expect these things that handle philosophical or political issues to be perfect, especially in a comic book movie. Hell, Dead Man Walking is a naive movie that winks at representing both sides of the death penalty issue, but is really in the tank for Penn's character. I still adore the movie, Sarandon's performance in particular. Does that mean I totally align with the politics or want someone like Penn's character as my neighbor? Hell no. But these are movies. They can't solve these issues. They can't even ask any new questions. PTSD, racism, what a country was founded on or what it stands for today, and even if it's possible to improve it. These ideas are too complex to ever really be solved. Shows like this just give you a peek at someone addressing it. Usually it's addressed clumsily, sometimes brilliantly, but it's a big ask for it to be intelligent and totally balanced or insightful, especially in a comic book show. It's just fictional characters written first and foremost to entertain us with these things. Walker is my favorite character in the show, and far from just a mustache-twirling madman, but nuanced and interesting. Maybe even a bit more honest than the other characters. I was pleasantly surprised by that. I also didn't expect Isaiah to show up. I wonder, will we get a miniseries of his younger days? I'm sure that would offend the hell out of some. I'm just not sure why. Between us, this is all just to hold me over until we get that long-awaited, at least in our case, Moon Knight show. I need the high adventure and the think pieces on what it means politically when an American mercenary becomes the schizophrenic fist of an Egyptian god. Best regards, and thanks for your time. Colin. What a great letter, man. See, I love it when a show topic that I, have you guys write in and people respond to it. I love that. I think that's fantastic. And, and you're right. These shows are not supposed to solve these problems, but they're bringing awareness that these problems exist. And, Isaiah Bradley, the man turned into a human guinea pig. And you know what? There's many people in America that would say, well, that's fine. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one, right? But what if you're Isaiah Bradley or his family? I mean, the fact is, and watch them, man. Them is, oh, man. I hate being white watching them. But still, these might be difficult things to deal with, but they happened. You can't pretend they didn't. I love Billie Holiday, but don't think there's not one moment when I hear the song Strange Fruit and don't think about what it's really about, which is black men and women, black human beings, black Americans hanging from nooses from trees by their necks, dead. That's a Billie Holiday song. Now, I'm not going to not listen to Billie Holiday because she's overtly political. She's an amazing performer, but she talked about things that happened in her own community, were perpetrated by Americans on other Americans that were supposedly free and equal, but that have never been. And I don't feel that it's wrong to have discussions about these things, nor do I think these discussions should be incendiary. They can be, but they don't have to be. And I think what's great about Falcon and the Winter Soldier is it's making people talk about these issues and think about them. And maybe it'll get people on the path to coming up with solutions. Solutions even I don't know. They're tough. These are big issues, man. Big, big, big issues. So I don't know what to say. I do know what to say, but guess what I have a letter for or from? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I have a Willow Yang letter. And not only do I have a Willow Yang letter, I love her letter. Some people are like, why do you love Willow so much? Because she's worthy of my love. And all I know about Willow is she's got a dirty mind, which I appreciate. And she's been watching Star Trek almost since this show started. And she writes thoughtful letters about her experience going through. That in itself wins my heart. And she's now a PhD. She's a doctor. She's a molecular biologist. So what's not to love about Willow Yang? So when people ask, what's your deal with Willow Yang? Now you know why. But she's come back with us and to tell us, as her journey through Star Trek continues, she watched the pilot of Enterprise, Broken Bow. And here she is, ladies and gentlemen, our own, the woman who writes Willow Talk, Willow Yang. Greetings, Rob. I'm writing in to give my thoughts on the pilot of Star Trek Enterprise, Broken Bow. To give a recap, it is the 22nd century. The Federation has not yet been formed. Humans have just developed the first starship that's capable of traveling at warp 5. The Universal Translator and Transporter aren't fully developed, and the humans aren't getting along too well with the Vulcans. The aforementioned starship, the Enterprise NX-01, is captained by Jonathan Archer, the son of Henry Archer, who worked alongside the famous Zephram Cochrane in developing warp technology. After an incident in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, where a Klingon named Klang crash lands into a cornfield while being pursued by Sulabons, a new race of aliens not seen in previous Star Trek series, and is ultimately critically wounded by a farmer, Archer and his crew, which consists of Phlox, an alien doctor, Hoshi, a language expert, Tucker, an engineer, Mayweather, the helmsman, Reed, the tactical officer, T'Pol, a Vulcan who is assigned to the ship as an observer, and of course, Porthos, Archer's beagle, embark on a mission to take Klang back to his home planet. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, a Sulabon is seen taking orders from a mysterious shadowy figure. The Enterprise gets attacked by the Sulabon, resulting in Klang getting abducted and Phlox discovering that the Sulabon have apparently been genetically enhanced. After pressing T'Pol, Archer learns that the Vulcans have discovered that Klang has been to the planet Rigel 10 prior to crash landing on Earth. They travel to Rigel, where Archer encounters a Sulabon defector who informs him of the presence of a cabal that's receiving orders from the future as part of a temporal Cold War, and that Klang is carrying a message containing proof of the Sulabon's involvement in attacks against the Klingons. The crew tracks down a Sulabon vessel from Rigel, which leads them to a space station inside a gas giant. They find Klang, and Archer has a confrontation with the head of the Sulabon cabal before being beamed on board the Enterprise via the transporter. The crew deliver Klang to the Klingon High Council. T'Pol agrees to remain on board the Enterprise, and Archer is told by Starfleet that they're ready to begin their mission of space exploration. The end. I will start out by saying that I really liked the premise of Enterprise, of seeing a time earlier on when humans were still figuring themselves out, and when they were still rougher around the edges, when they had to work in the absence of advanced technologies that we've taken for granted in previous Star Trek series. Along with the changes in the time era, the show does break with a few traditions, perhaps most controversially with its use of the song Faith of the Heart as the intro music. I found that choice to be a bit unusual, and it appears that I'm not the only one. Fans back in the day apparently held protests and made petitions demanding for the theme to be changed. One particular statement read as follows: "We wish to express our unmitigated disgust with the theme song that has been selected for the new Enterprise series. It's not fit to be scraped off the bottom of a Klingon's boot." I just want to point out, if I can editorialize, the song wasn't even unique to Star Trek. It was a song that was written for Patch Adams, the Robin Williams movie, if I believe. It was written by Diane Warren. So they just took it from another movie. And if anything, if you don't like the song, that's one thing, but I think it's most egregious that the song wasn't even written for the show, which is the worst part. This is back to Willow now. While I'm personally not opposed to the use of the song in place of the orchestral music that has traditionally been used for Star Trek intros, I did not think that Faith of the Heart is the right choice for a Star Trek series. The song is probably more suitable for a romantic drama rather than a science fiction series about space exploration. I do, however, really like the opening sequence of human exploration and developments. I thought that was very fitting for the premise of the series. There was also orchestral music that was done originally for it that they decided not to go with, that I believe is over the end credits. With regards to the main cast of characters, I haven't yet formed any particularly strong opinions of them after the first few episodes. I will just say that I do find the humans to be more relatable here than in other Star Trek series, considering they are less socially evolved. I enjoyed seeing the rocky relationship between them and the Vulcans, which is quite different from the more jovial rivalry that the two disparate races typically have in other Star Trek series. There is real mistrust and animosity, with the humans resenting the Vulcans for holding them back, and the Vulcans looking down on the humans, believing that they are still unevolved and undisciplined. I do find the character of T'Pol to be a bit unusual. Purposely or not, Jolene Blalock brings a sultriness to the character that's typically not present in most depictions of Vulcans. She does remind me of Jerry Ryan's 7 of 9 from Voyager, and I do wonder if that was intentional, given the latter's popularity. The other major alien character is, of course, Phlox, the Doctor, who's apparently a Denobulan, a new race of aliens that I don't recall being mentioned in any other Star Trek series. He reminds me a bit of Neelix, another Voyager character, but much less annoying, and I'm glad to hear of his appreciation for Chinese cuisine. To cap off some final thoughts on the pilot, first of all, I'm not sure if Broken Bow is the best name of the episode. I was unaware that it's actually the name of a city. When I saw the title, my mind actually went to the bow of a ship. Is it Broken Bow? Have I been saying Broken Bow the whole time? It's actually Broken Bow. You're saying the bow of a ship. I guess it is bow. I've been saying it, all this time, since 2001, I've been saying Broken Bow. but it's Broken Bow, right? And really, the city had virtually nothing to do with the story apart from the initial Klingon encounter. Secondly, things definitely got a little steamy in the decontamination chamber with the lingering close-ups of T'Pol and Tucker massaging gel onto each other's bodies. Well, you just wait, little sister, what happens to them. Hey, I'm certainly not going to complain here. Connor Trinneer's toned arms and torso are a pleasant sight to behold, and I wouldn't mind seeing more. Finally, I'm assuming that the whole temporal Cold War that the Suliban's are engaging in, which sounds like something from Tenet, except Enterprise was created about 20 years earlier, will come back again since Broken Bow left the story rather open-ended. The Suliban cabal is out there, and the identity of the shadowy figure that was giving them instructions hasn't been revealed. Spoiler alert, Willow, it never is. As an aside, because the Suliban leader brought it up when he said to Archer, "Are you aware that your genome is almost identical to that of an ape?" Here's a factoid. In experiments where a human gene is used to replace a homologous gene in yeast, it has been found that roughly half of the genes tested are compatible in yeast cells. In other words, even after 1 billion years of evolutionary divergence, there is still a considerable level of genetic conservation between us and yeast. Well, that makes sense to me. Anything carbon-based that came out of the star stuff that we... how many elements of that? 6 or something? All in all, I enjoyed Broken Bow. As a pilot, I thought that it did an effective job of setting up the new Star Trek series. I really liked the premise, the choice to do something different from the rest of the Star Trek franchise by going to an earlier time period, and I appreciated the references to canonical characters like Cochrane. While I haven't gotten attached to the crew yet, I do think that there's promise in having a cast of characters that are rougher around the edges, that are still figuring things out as they explore the vast expanses of the universe. I look forward to following Archer and company on their mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, and to boldly go where no man has gone before. Live long and prosper, Willow. Well, Willow, what a lovely letter once again. So I thank you for that one. Let's see. Gil Bavel, Cardinalson, who was on the show the other night, says, "Rob, I love you like a brother. You know that. But one should not make pronouncements from on high when they have not done their homework. Here's your homework. My interview with author, researcher, speaker, and producer Peter Robbins from yesterday." All right, you're shamelessly promoting your interview, but I'll put it on there. This is about UFOs. Dude, I can't tell you how many books and how many things I've actually read about UFOs. I've talked about it a lot, but I'll watch your interview, and I even put it in the live chat so people can check it out. But there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to UFOs. Omar94 writes in. What a surprise, Omar. Good to see you again. Hi, Rob, moderators in the Post-Geek Singularity. This is just something I thought of out of the blue, but I'm curious to know if you and anyone listening decides to take a trip down memory lane every once in a while, where you decide to watch clips or entire episodes of TV shows from your younger days. And I'm not talking about how you watched the original Star Trek series when you were younger, Rob, and every once in a while go back to it. What I mean is a show you watched when you were younger, which was specifically aimed at a younger audience. In my case, there are a few episodes, but not all of them, that I tend to watch clips or episodes of TV shows I would watch when I was younger, such as Ed, Edd n Eddy, Even Stevens, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and Ned's Declassified. I still enjoy watching them, even though I'm older now. I'm not sure what it is which makes me go back and watch them. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing where I like to remember the shows I would enjoy watching when I was younger. That's what I wanted to know, whether you and the others do something like that. Thanks, and live long and prosper. I don't. I mean, it's always funny. Like the other day, I made a quip. I said some, I don't even remember what it was, but I said I'd rather see a reboot of The Lost Saucer, which was a Saturday morning show with Ruth Buzzy and Jim Nabors as androids and their alien dog and their lost saucer. I'd rather see a reboot of that than I have something to do with modern Star Trek. And I went back and I was like, there must be Lost Saucer on YouTube, and lo and behold, there was the pilot episode. So I put the opening theme song. And by the way, the design of the Lost Saucer in Saturday Morning's The Lost Saucer is a far better design than any ship we've seen on Star Trek Discovery. I know it's a flying saucer, but still, the design of that flying saucer, I'm like, I would love to have a model of that, like something like maybe this big. Maybe somebody does make a resin kit of the Lost Saucer. I don't know. But I don't usually go back and watch those shows because other than like getting a taste of them, I mean, there are things, when I think about shows I watched when I was younger, I think about things I really like in college, like Wise Guy. I loved Wise Guy. I recently was on a Wise Guy kick, and I was watching various story arcs that I really love that show. Sometimes when I was a kid, my favorite shows when I was a kid was the same shit: Outer Limits, Star Trek, Twilight Zone, and the movies. I never watched a lot of sitcom-y stuff. I mean, I did when I was in elementary school, like Leave It to Beaver and My Three Sons and Partridge Family and Brady Bunch and I Dream of Jeannie and Gilligan's Island, because they were on. But I have no particular affinity for those things. I would much rather, the things I loved as a kid are the same things I love now. The original Twilight Zone being one of them. So I don't usually do that. This comes from Paul in Long Beach. Very interesting. Our friend Paul, one of the foundational members of the Post-Geek Singularity, says, I woke up this morning for work. Midnight Metal was there for me along with coffee. I love this format, Rob. And hey to you as well, Mike. A light bulb went on during my second cup, though. Stick with me here. It's an idea for show 700. Give it up. For the majority of the 11 hours and 40 minutes, hand over the reins to others. Not only the Post-Geek Singularity members, but ask some other YouTube professionals to take a half an hour. Imagine Dieter Bastian hosting duties to John Campier or Jeremy Johns. If you were to ask around, I'm sure you could get quite a few hosts. Charlie at Emergency Awesome, Jenny Nicholson. I could probably get James, Mr. Sunday Movies. You could probably get the Critical Drinker, and of course Az or Andre. Hit up some of the old crew. I miss Amy Dallin and Jay Washington. Just some suggestions off the top of my head. 5 PGS members and 5 pros. You've basically taken up 5, maybe 6 hours of your programming for that day. Anyway, just a thought. Cheers, gentlemen. Well, Paul, that's an intriguing idea. My only thing with that would be, it's hard to host a show for that long of a period of time, especially talking into a camera. And there are some people I think are good at that, but there's some, unless you're already doing that on your own show, it's hard. But I do like that idea, pass off the torch. I'm trying to arrange some pretty great interviews for the 700th episode, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. I certainly like that idea. I think that's not a bad idea at all. Justin Jorgensen has written in. Hello, Rob, and all of our wonderful imagination connoisseurs that together form the Post-Geek Singularity. Firstly, I just wanted to start off by thanking you and our amazing team of mods and allowing me to be a part of that team. Well, you're welcome. It's an honor being part of such an awesome community. Well, I'm happy to have you. For my letter, I bet you'll never guess what it's about. I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with Kransbormers. Yes, sir, I want to discuss the 2007 Michael Bay classic, Transformers, and give a bit of insight into why I appreciate this film so much and why I hold it close to my heart. First off, I grew up with this film. I was only 6 when it came out, and I remember watching it at my grandparents' house on their brand new flat-screen TV. I was in utter shock the entire time and in complete disbelief of what I was watching. 6-year-old me was watching this thinking, this is real? How do they film this in real life? I was blown away, and I truly feel that this is the reason I became an imagination connoisseur like I am today. There was no MCU at the time, and for me, it was Transformers and Transformers alone. This first film has a very distinct feeling of wonder that can be felt throughout the entire film, much like movies like E.T., Jurassic Park, and the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man. While I enjoy most of the sequels to 2007's Transformers, not even Bumblebee could reach the heights of this first film, for me. Whenever I rewatch the Transformers movies, it's always just the first one. This is also the only Bay Transformers movie where the Autobots seem to have a moral compass and they aren't just murdering machines. This film is truly in a league of its own in my book. Lastly, I want to close with a quote from this film from my favorite character in all of fiction, Optimus Prime. "The humans are a young species. They have much to learn, but I've seen goodness in them. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings." Thanks for listening on my little tangent, and thanks for all that you do, Rob. Till all are one. Yeah, there's a lot of people that love Transformers all the way back into the 80s to the Transformers commercial. Well, it was a commercial. It's the Transformers series. I liked the first Transformers movie. As I've talked about on the show before, I thought the ending battle was a little incoherent, but I really enjoyed the Transformers film. In a non-ironic way, I really enjoyed it. I thought the story of his boy and his dog. Obviously Michael Bay is very thirsty. The way he portrays Megan Fox is like, it's very thirsty, and sometimes it's hard to watch. Like, I'm like, come on, man. Although actually it's not hard to watch, but I feel as I get older, I put on Transformers 1, I find myself lusting after young Megan Fox, and I'm like, bruh, you got to tone yourself down. But no, I like Transformers. There's a lot to like. The visual effects are amazing. They're absolutely it's incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah, thanks for writing in. I very much appreciate it, man, and thanks for being a great moderator. I think right now I'm going to jump over and see where y'all are at. What's going on here? I have no idea, but we're going to soon find out together. This first one comes from Raymond Verata, sends in a tip and says, "Sorry if I'm late to the party. When was Marvel's Secret Invasion announced? The Hollywood Reporter reported that Olivia Colman is in talks to star in the new Disney series with Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn. That was announced back when they announced all their upcoming shows. They did a whole big announcement stream. It was at the Disney shareholders meeting that they announced Secret Invasion. So, yep, that's when they announced it. Was that like 6 months ago or something? Yeah, Willow sends in a tip and says, "I don't want to ruffle feathers, but do you think American captains are being overrepresented in Star Trek? 4 of the 5 leading captains from the old Star Trek series, Picard being the only exception, are from the U.S. There are other countries on Earth, laugh out loud." I think so, but as we have seen, I mean, America does lead the way in space exploration, so that makes sense. But I think your point's well taken. We saw Vijay Armitage was a captain an Indian captain in Star Trek 4. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, obviously the show's made in America, so there's an over-reliance on American captains. I would agree with you, but we do see other ethnicities in all other facets of Star Trek. There's been commodores and admirals of color, women, female admirals, things like that, like Admiral Nechayev, played by Natalia Nogulich. So yeah, but I think you're probably right. The Star Trek could have stood to have different kinds of captains that weren't necessarily American. Jason S. says, "There's nothing wrong with Georgia passing laws to help stop Hollywood from stealing our elections." How is Hollywood stealing the elections? Which is what they advocate for when they demand foreign citizens, illegal aliens, and children to be voting in our elections and ballot harvesting. I don't think that type of Hollywood-designed voter suppression has already started in California, and we shouldn't let it spread to the rest of the country. Maybe half the country should stop paying for Hollywood's movies and TV shows and dry up their revenue. Jason, what does Hollywood have to do with voter laws? I mean, Hollywood's just made up with Americans. It's so weird. Like, I don't understand that kind of thinking. We vote like anybody else. We vote for the voter laws in Georgia were voted by the Republicans, and you can't tell me that you can't hide behind the fact that these laws were specifically designed to target certain groups of Americans to make it easier for the Republicans not to lose the state of Georgia next time. I mean, that's what gerrymandering and this isn't not like it's new. You can't pretend it's not happening. But it's not Hollywood that's doing it. And even Ryan Coogler, if you were here the other day, he wrote an article saying, "Don't move out of Georgia. We're going to make Black Panther 2 in Georgia." Emil Johansson, hello, Emil. How you been? Where you been? I don't want to get too involved with people who complain about politics and fiction. Would they have told Charlie Chaplin to shut up when he was involved? Wouldn't surprise me if they do like politics, just not a certain type. Yeah, I think that's where we're kind of at. KevZ247 became a member. Well, thank you for becoming a member of the channel, my friend. Emil Johansson said, Film Gob turned to the light side. He said he liked the Shang-Chi trailer. Good for Film Gob. That's cool. Good to hear that. Jason S. says, what do you mean when you keep saying blacks in America have never had true equality? Since 2008, we've been living in the age where black supremacy is mainstream and celebrated. Black supremacist groups even got governments to paint their name on streets. Jason. Come on. Let's say there were like the most militant black supremacist groups running around our streets on a nightly basis, patrolling with weapons and keeping certain people out of certain neighborhoods. That still doesn't mean that America doesn't have a legacy of incredible racism that continues even to this day. Just because there might be black supremacist groups in America, and let's face it, how could there not be? And just because there were Black Lives Matter protests, the fact is we're a bunch of racist fucks. And we're still racist against black people. The majority, well, shouldn't say the majority, a lot of Americans don't like black people. We're racist. And you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong in recognizing that. I'm surprised there aren't more black supremacy groups running around taking over various parts of the city. But it wasn't black supremacy groups. I mean, there were Black Lives Matter protests, sure. And by the way, there should be. There should be. We're in the middle of a trial right now. I'm sure when the verdict comes, a very high profile, black man straight up murdered by the police on video for all to see. You know how many black people have been straight up murdered by white people in the last 450 years? I don't know, but it's been a lot. And you can't turn around and go, this is not whataboutism. This is not whataboutism. You can't say that, well, what about this? What about that? What about there's black supremacist organizations? Was there the black version of the Ku Klux Klan? Have black people towed white people behind pickup trucks to the point where their bodies come apart? Did black people lynch white people in the Deep South? Did black people prevent American soldiers from availing themselves of the GI Bill? I mean, this is not something that to say, well, what about this? What about that? Since 2008, I don't care what happened since 2008. It's not for me to say. I'm just pointing out that there is racism in this country that has always existed and has never gone away. And the reaction, whether you're going to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King or Malcolm X and their varying approaches and how Magneto and Professor X, their philosophies were analogous to that. I mean, whatever you want to bring up, you can bring up these things, but that doesn't change the fact that we're a racist fucking country. Because we are, it won't be anymore, but the majority white America was prejudicial against anyone who was not part of white America. I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. This is fact supported by hundreds of years of history. And all I'm saying is we can recognize it. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person, Jason. It just means we have to recognize these things, discuss them, and move forward. How do we reconcile this? How do we make sure that a predominant part of our prison population are not African American men? You have to ask yourself, why is there a predominantly large amount of African American men in this country? What have we done as a nation to fail our black male brothers? What have we done? Why is this continuing to happen? Why is there not the generational wealth in black families that there are in white families? Why? And you know what? I don't see that we can't, and there's a lot of people, especially there's a lot of black Americans that are angry, and rightfully so. And this isn't something that we should take offense to. This is the beginning of how do we solve this problem? And I think that it's not bad to say these things and recognize these problems. But when you say, that's what I say. What do you mean when you keep saying blacks in America have never had true equality? Because they never have. Never. There's no metric in America that you could say that black Americans have had true equality. And I don't mean, somebody's going to throw out, well, what about in professional sports? I'm like, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is education, quality of life, that kind of thing. This is not a channel that is about that. I'm not here to solve the political divide. I'm only mentioning America is a racist nation. We're still a racist nation. We were a racist nation. We've always been a racist nation. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing to point out. It's a bad thing to be, but it's something that we're going to have to overcome, and it's going to take us a long time. And it's taken us hundreds of years, and there's nothing wrong to mention that. It doesn't hurt me. I would rather have it be better. So, Delonzo Edwards sends in a very nice super chat. Thank you, Delonzo. And he says, I really respect, as a black American, your perspective and opinion. Why? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say my opinion is right or wrong. I think I'm just trying to recognize the reality. Well, Delonzo, I don't think I have to tell you what it's like to be a black American. I mean, you're the one that would tell me. I think that there's nothing wrong in recognizing that, but I definitely appreciate that you appreciate that I recognize it. I mean, and this is not my white guilt talking. This is I work in Hollywood, and I like to make movies, and when you make movies, if there's a problem, you solve it that day, because time is money. And we're not very good at solving our big problems, especially social problems, whether it's racism, whether it's the homeless, whether it's our educational system, poverty, all of the. It's funny, we complain about putting people in prisons, but why don't we solve the poverty problem in this country and the lack of generational wealth in certain communities? What about education? Why don't we pay our teachers a lot more? Why don't we have more after-school programs? I mean, we could do a lot to help fix the country, but we never do. Man Dude is here, and he says, if given the chance to orbit any planet in the solar system for 3 months, what would you pick? Pretend you'd be given life support, artificial gravity, food, beer, and a companion of your choice. I'd pick Jupiter, but Neptune's a close second. Bro, Man Dude, it's either Jupiter or Saturn for me. Always. I would pick Jupiter, though, just because it'd be so. I could stare at it forever. And I would do that. I would. You know what? If someone gave me a chance, like to go on a 3-month meditation trip onto an orbiting space hotel with nothing but the universe to contemplate, I would do it. I would totally do that. Eric Gant is here, sends in a tip, 1 of 5. Wow, Eric. All right, strap in for this one, everyone. Eric Gant says, Rob, a few thoughts on the supposed wokeness of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's a difference between forcefully injecting social issues into a story and realistically portraying social issues that are intrinsic to the story that's being told. Fucking men, Mr. Gant. Can I read that again? Let me read that one more time, because yes, there is a difference between forcefully injecting social issues into a story and realistically portraying social issues that are intrinsic to the story that is being told. Yes, man, that should be the motto of this channel. I think I'm going to adopt that as a model of, you know what? I'm going to steal that, but I'm going to keep this. That's, I'm going to email this to myself so I don't forget about it. I'm going to put this in the live chat. I'll give you full credit. Paste. Eric Gant. Hell yes. Thank you for that one. Wait, I know it's one. I haven't even gotten to your next these tips. Hang on. I'm literally just sending this to myself because I'm gonna put this far and wide, and I will in fact give you all the credit in the world. In the world. So that was 1 of 5. Imagine Schindler's List with all the references to the Holocaust being removed because it makes the story too woke. Doing so would remove every trace of verisimilitude from the story. There's a percentage of the population that strives to paint the term woke as a pejorative. It's as though they're saying it's preferable to stay asleep or turn a blind eye to these issues than address that they exist. Screw that. I am awake. I am a proponent of social justice. And unless I get zapped in the bizarro world where up is down, hate is good, and social injustice is celebrated, I will remain a wide awake proponent of social justice. I loved WandaVision. I'm loving Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I'm looking forward to Loki. I'm tickled that Marvel is giving us such amazing shows. Anyway, keep doing what you do, sir. Your channel is greatly appreciated. Well, Eric, thank you for writing in. I couldn't agree with you more. I think you nailed that. That is absolutely correct. And yeah, I don't understand how people don't know the difference. I mean, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is literally about a black man taking up the mantle of Captain America. That's what the entire story, I mean, it's not just what the story is about, but that is, in a way, what the story in terms of his character is all about. You have Bucky on one hand trying to make amends for the horrors he caused, and on the other hand, you have Sam Wilson, who at the beginning reluctantly gave up the shield because he didn't think that he could be Captain America, that he wasn't worthy. And these experiences and everything he's going through, including meeting Isaiah Bradley, is telling him that, yes, indeed, I am worthy. That's what the show's all about. You know who else thought he was worthy? Fucking Wakanda, I'll bet. I bet Wakanda said, fuck yeah, you become Captain America. Strong black man like you with a good moral center and the understanding of right and wrong, even though sometimes you might not be able to do the rightest thing because sometimes wrong things are required to achieve victory. I mean, the world is a strange place, and I think that what Sam Wilson is learning about is how to take on the mantle of Captain America, and it's great. That's great storytelling. Monkey Frog sends in a tip and says, do you remember the adventures of Superboy from the late 80s? And did you like it? I enjoyed it as a kid. It helped feed my nostalgia for Christopher Reeve's Superman. I also didn't think Gerard Christopher was terrible in the red cape. That was all right. I didn't watch it religiously, but I thought it was okay. You know, I watched that. Yeah, I thought it was good. I didn't. Again, it was part of those syndicated drama genre shows, and at the time I wasn't watching a lot of TV, but there you go. So yeah, but I liked it. 200 Watt Studio says, Rob, I just got some Arrow Blu-rays. I forgot my player was not region-free. Can you recommend a region-free Blu-ray player? Well, I have to tell you that Amazon has a bunch of pretty good region-free players. Now, I usually like to stick with the major brands, Pioneer, LG. You know, I recommended there's an LG player. Let me find it. I think this is it. I want to make sure that it's the right one. HDR is the one with Dolby Vision. I don't think it isn't. I don't think it is Dolby Vision. But it is a pretty good 4K player. I'll put a link in the live chat. There you go. There's one. But, you know, it depends how many features you want. There's some good Sony ones. I mean, I would just go to, if you go to Amazon and type in region-free player, that's, like, here's a good one. There's a lot of good ones. There's Sony, there's Panasonic, Pioneer. It depends what you want. And if you don't have it really also depends on your screen, but there's a lot. But I would stick with a major brand, and you probably won't have a problem. 200 Watt Studio goes on to say, for fun planets to move to, I hear Jupiter's a gas. That's an Emma Bannon joke. And 200 Watt Studio, I'm ashamed of you. No, that's kind of funny. I kind of like that. Brian Sutter says, hi, Rob. I'm really enjoying Falcon and Winter Soldier, as flawed as he is. I like the character of John Walker. We need more episodes per season. You know what? What's great about the character of John Walker is he's conflicted, and we all understand it. He's a really well-drawn character, and I think that's what makes it great. We get it. We understand where he's coming from, what the deal is, and I think that's a really hard thing to pull off. We're still sympathetic, even though he flat-out murdered a dude. I mean, Battlestar was killed. His friend was killed. The man he served with was killed. And I don't think I thought that, of course, being Captain America, if he was just a soldier, he would have been exonerated. But since he was Captain America wearing that suit and did it in full public view, it's I think it's good stuff. That's why people dig it, and that's why people dig John Walker. Alexander Wilson says, is Lena Waith's Them on Amazon trauma porn? I know some people who do not like it at all. It's not getting good press. Well, I mean, I guess you could call it trauma porn. I see it as horror. It's a horror series, and rather than having a monster, I mean, it's dealing with you've got a lot of trauma happening. You've got PTSD happening. You've got one of the main character, the main male character, is returning. He's a World War II vet that was experimented on with things like mustard gas, and then you have a woman who's tenuous grip on reality, and then you have one of the daughters is seeing a specter of perhaps somebody that was murdered in the house they're living in. I mean, to me, it's really disturbing horror. But yeah, it's unrelenting. It does not let go. It does not let go. I don't know if I'd call it trauma porn, but it's pretty hardcore. I mean, I'm watching it. I'm up to episode 4, and I'm like, yeesh. And I heard I know one of the producers on the show, and he told me, wait till you get to episode 5. I'm like, all right. But I'm really enjoying it. Evan Newman says, oh, well, let me put this up. For those of you who don't know, the animated series that I've been working on for 2 years was thankfully, thank God, renewed. The notice came from Valve, officially from Valve today, who created the Dota 2 game. If you've been watching Dota Dragon's Blood on Netflix, I'm very proud of the work we did on the show. It was renewed officially, so we're going to get Book 2. Woohoo! And yes, to be honest, I was working on Book 2 last night, to tell you the truth. Evan Newman says, in honor of the Dota Dragon's Blood renewal, I think we'd all like to know something, Rob. If you were from the same elven race as Fimmerin, who would you want in your pod? Feel free to pick anyone, alive or not. In my pod, do I only get 3 people in my pod? Okay, I get 3 people plus me. That's so. For those of you who have not watched Dragon's Blood, the elves have a pod of lovers, and everybody kind of gets together. Okay, yeah. Grace Kelly specifically Grace Kelly from Rear Window. I'll take Grace Kelly, and since we're going the celeb route, I'll take Grace Kelly from Rear Window. I'll take, let's see, Catherine Deneuve. I'll go the blonde route. Catherine Deneuve and Sharon Stone. Okay, that's the blonde route. Oh, see, I could go, but then others I would go international route. I'd go international route. I would take Nichelle Nichols. I would take Zhang Zi. I would take Lupita Nyong'o. How about that? So there's 2 pods that I'll give you. Yeah. Let's see. But thanks. I'm glad you're watching. It's really exciting. Congratulations to the entire cast and crew of Dota Dragon's Blood. And yes, it is, as you can probably just found out if you haven't watched it, it's very much an adult anime series. So yes. Alex Acera sends in a super chat and says, at this point, I don't know if the Snyderverse is getting restored or not, but the latest damning evidence against she who would be replaced by Amelia Clarke. Oh, Zack Snyder should do a Berserk for Netflix. Evil Dead meets Game of Thrones. She who should be replaced by Amelia Clark. Are you talking about? Mara? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what the damning evidence is. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I tend to separate people's personal lives, especially actors that work in Hollywood. They've got a lot of volatile craziness in their lives, and I tend to always take that stuff with a grain of salt. But yeah, that's true. I don't know if it's ever going to get restored. Alexander Wilson says, is the Falcon and Winter Soldier triggering people? Black soldiers were treated like trash in World War II. Just go read Jackie Robinson's book. He was a lieutenant in the Army in the 40s, and the Army court-martialed him because he wouldn't go to the back of the bus. My point exactly. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's the point I've been trying to make. And there's a lot that America as a nation can atone for. So I don't understand why. And I think they're dealing with all of these issues in a very respectful manner. I think absolutely. 200 Watt Studio sends in another super chat and says, if you need a good music planet, Neptune's good. You know what? I take it back. Emma's jokes are better. Emma's jokes are better. Emil Johansson says, how is Marvel capable of embracing so many fantastical elements while still feeling grounded? Not trying to lick their ass, although there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't understand their magic. You know what, Emil? I think you just you really nailed something in that that's one of the things that I wondered about when seeing Iron Man 1 and knowing they were going to make more Marvel movies. I'm like, how are they going to make Thor and Captain America exist in the same world as Iron Man? Like the Rainbow Bridge and Asgard? Are we going to believe it? Well, I think one of the things and the brilliance of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is they bring us the characters that we like. We like Chris Hemsworth as Thor. So we believe. And the people they've cast, they give us gravitas. You know, they make us believe through the people that agree. When Hela shows up and it's Cate Blanchett, you're like, I believe. And I think they do a really good job. I think that is the most unsung thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is they have that special sauce and they make us believe. And I think that's not easy to do. Whether you're going to Xandar or you're with the Guardians of the Galaxy, Thanos, or going to Madripoor with Winter Soldier and Falcon, they make you believe. You believe in it all. That is really, really hard to do. The incredible tonal shifts. And people are like, the Marvel Universe is pablum. No, what they've done is so hard to do. It's so hard to do. And, so... yes, you can lick their ass. I think there's no one in the world that doesn't appreciate a nice ass licking now and again. Let me just say that. Nicholas Nora sends in a super chat and says, hey, Rob, so what did you do for Dota? Big fan. I was the animatic editor, meaning that the animatics, the final versions, animatics are, think of them as low-res, temporary animations that show you the story. You cut them together they're like shots. They're like shots in live action, but instead of live action, they're low-res animations, wireframe animations. Sometimes they just have stuck, like still pictures stuck in place. You're supposed to understand what's happening. And so what you do is you edit all of those low-res shots together into what the finished version is going to look like. And that's the animatic. And then that animatic is sent back to be animated, those shots. And when we talk about animated, we're talking, I'm the final person to get those animatics usually, and we edit them down, and we make it exactly the way showrunner Ashley Edward Miller wants them to be. So then we ship them off from what we do. They go back to Korea, and they get animated. So I'm one of the last people to do editorial on Dota before it gets animated. Because obviously things aren't animated and then you edit them, because when they're animated, it's down to the last frame. So when we edit things, it's all frame accurate, down to the last frame. So that's what I did. And if you look at the end credits, indeed, you will see my end credits. Cinema Gulp is here, and Cinema Gulp, thanks for coming on the show. And I appreciate that. Yo, Rob, shameless plug. Our 5-year anniversary show is up today on our YouTube channel. Just getting the word out, sir. Hope the Post-Geek Singularity checks it out. You just reminded me, Cinema Gulp. I'm going to do something right now that that I was doing over the weekend, and it seemed to work very well. Now, before I say what I'm going to do, and some of you who were here over the weekend know what I'm going to do, and this might not work, and hey, somebody, you might not take the bait, but I'm going to open up right now. Now, in order to do this, I just want to say, if you've been doing Zoom calls and you have a decent microphone and a good camera, I am going to put in the live chat right now the link. I will put you live on this show. There's 349 people around the world currently watching the show. If you want to be on Robservations right now, I'm going to put a link into the live chat. It will be first come, first serve. As long as you have the technology to do it. I will do it, and we'll see how it goes. And there it is. It's in the live chat right now. Of course, there's a delay, so we'll see. If anybody wants to, we'll see if anybody shows up. I'm going to put you in the live chat of the show. We'll see. Maybe nobody will. I don't know. Max Cohen sent in a super chat and says, is anyone else thinking Walker might pull a Green Goblin on Senator Weaseldick and kill him as his first action as U.S. agent Super Patriot? I don't know. I don't think John Walker's a murderer necessarily. He was at war and he killed an enemy combatant. At least that's kind of the way I saw it. I mean, yes, he is a murderer, but the way I saw it is kind of that way. So, there you go. That's kind of the way I saw the whole thing. And I know, by the way, I know nobody was necessarily expecting me to say you could jump on the show. And like I said, no one has to jump on the show. But it was certainly a fun thing to do. We did that on Midnight Metal. I opened up and I talked to a lovely gentleman from Serbia who works in theater, who actually knew one of my favorite Serbian movies from the 80s. Apparently he knew the lead actors. Oh, someone's here. Someone is here. Darren Seeley is here. Are you here, Darren? I can't see you or hear you. Oh, there you are. Darren, you'll have to turn down your mic. Or turn down the sound on your computer, because there's a lag. But I'm gonna put you, since you're the first person here, I'm gonna put you in the show. Nope, you're the first person here, dude. What's that? Nope, not necessarily. Let me just bring this down, and I'm putting you in the show. Get situated so you're centered in your camera. You're kind of off center. Like, there you go. There you go. Yeah, and you're the top of your head's kind of getting cut off too. So if you can bring down, people can't see you. That's better. That's good. All right. There you go. No, it's good. It's good. All right, I'm bringing you on the show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome, Darren Seeley, onto Robservations. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Let me ask you, when did you know you were an imagination connoisseur?
Gosh, that's a good question. Probably a long time ago. I think I'll say this. I truly believe this back in 1977, 78 about. Well, that's kind of giving away my age, but that's okay. I'm closer to John Campion's age, Robert's age. So you kind of get a ballpark area. But I'll say that because Star Wars was influential to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I include myself in that. But I put a little asterisk next to that because it isn't. The film itself is great, of course, legendary, but with your kid back then, you got all the merch.
Yes.
As much as you could get your grubbly little hands on. And
And a lot of the merch was about the making of the show, the making of the movie. Ralph McQuarrie's portfolio, the sketchbook, the blueprints.
I was getting to that because you even got the bubblegum cards, the top cards.
Which are great. And they had behind-the-scenes stuff on them.
They do all the nook and crannies, and then finally, what do we got to do next? So they start showing behind-the-scenes photos of ILM doing their things, doing the model buildings. Then they're starting to show the Ralph McQuarrie paintings, and it gets you fascinated with that sort of thing. You're indoctrinated early on. So if you really didn't, you may have been wondering about how they make films before, but now you get an actual peek into it. And of course, then they had special VHS tapes of the making of Star Wars and all that. And so it got you into that. And I think it was a slight indoctrination and fascination to do at least special effects work and filmmaking. Even the Marvel Comics Omnibus, if you ever had that, where they adapted the Star Wars New Hope. In the inside back cover, they show, Sir Alec Guinness and George Lucas having a cup of coffee.
Right.
Or something,
Yeah.
Wow.
Now let me ask you this. What are some of your current passions as an imagination connoisseur? What are the things you're enjoying now over the last,
oh man. Usually it's mostly screenwriting and getting into some animation if I could.
Oh, nice. But I mean, what are you watching? What books are you watch or reading?
I read a lot of books, nonfiction, fiction. I do a lot of production art books.
Yeah.
I'll just pick one. Here's a good one right here.
You got the Watchmen book, I see.
Yeah. Alien, of course.
That's a great book.
Yeah, it's a great one.
That's the Rinsler book.
Yeah, it is. And I put the other one on Amazon. I'm going to get that in a week or two, the one with aliens. I always wondered if they're ever going to do an Alien 3, actually. That would be interesting.
On the Blu-ray, the Charlie Lazarica's documentary is pretty definitive. Definitive.
I, as much as I like the theatrical and think it gets a bad rap, I have to admit that producer's cut.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So
I can understand why people don't want a 3-hour Alien movie, though. But still.
Oh, come on! If it's good, why not?
Yeah.
Bring them on. Yeah. Bring on a 3-hour Alien movie. Yeah. Hey, since this is the kind of thing I can do because I have the technology, I'm gonna bring cinema along with us because I don't think I even finished reading his super chat. To be honest, I got to put him. Since I'm not designed to have 3 people on this particular thing, I'm gonna bring him in onto a screen. So joining Mr. Seeley and myself is Cinema to talk about their 5-year anniversary on the channel. Please welcome Cinema Gulp. Hello, Cinema Gulp. How are you?
Hey, Rob. I'm good, Rob. Thanks. And you did finish my super chat, sir.
Did I? Oh, there you go. So go to Cinema Gulp's channel.
Short and to the point.
So let me ask you the same question, Cinema Gulp. When did you become an imagination connoisseur, and what was the thing that made you an imagination connoisseur?
Oh, God. You're going to hate this one. I think the first thing I remember is, and it's an age thing more than anything else, but it was probably the Goonies. I know you're gonna hate that. I know.
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna lie to you though, Rob. I'm not gonna lie to you though. No, when it came to filmmaking, when I'm like, I think I want to do this for my life, it was watching Top Gun as a 9-year-old, and I didn't want to be a fighter pilot like everybody else. I wanted to be the guy that made that movie.
Right.
So I became a lifelong Tony Scott fan, pretty much. So that one more so as far as that, but my imagination started going crazy with things like the Goonies. I know you hate that one, but
it's okay. Everybody has to start somewhere. The 2 movies that I have so much loathing for that people love are the Goonies and Hook. I mean, I love Steven Spielberg, but my God, Hook is hard to watch. So, what about now? What are things that you are grooving on these days?
Anything with Alex Garland's name on it is my jam completely. I talk about it on our 5-year show that Annihilation was my favorite movie of the last 10 years. Spoiler alert. I mean that and Social Network, but I think Social Network is technically 2010, so I didn't bunch it in there. But Yeah, Alex Garland, Taylor Sheridan, anything that he's working on nowadays, like
Yep.
from a screenwriting standpoint, is so good. So
I'm a huge fan of Garland as well. I mean, I didn't like his Annihilation as much as you did, but I loved Ex Machina. I loved Devs.
I love Devs too. I wrote you a
know.
letter about Devs. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And so, Darren, are
Yeah.
you turning your back on us? Is that
Yes,
how
I
little
am.
you think of us?
Just to show you this one more time.
Yeah, I need to get that, man. I don't know why I don't have that book. I don't know why. But now let me ask you guys this. You know, people are always talking about, I got to get that. People are always talking about, that's amazing. People are always talking about the state of like the MCU. I'm a huge fan of the MCU. What do you guys think, like, since we've been talking a lot about Falcon and Winter Soldier today, what do you both think of the show, and are you enjoying it? I don't even know if you're watching it. So Darren, let's start with you. Are you watching?
I am watching it.
Now, are you a MCU fan?
Of course I am.
Well, I
course
mean,
I
not
am.
everybody is.
Well, whoever those people are, I'd like to meet them. Or
So, did you enjoy WandaVision?
yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
And what about you, Cinema?
I love Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm having a blast with it. I like all the questions that it poses, and I don't have criteria for how I take my comic book movies. I just want them to, or comic book shows. I just want them to be entertaining, and it's really entertaining in such a drastically different way than WandaVision, which is what's so cool. It's like
I
could not be
100%.
more opposite of each other, you know?
Yeah, no, I love that about, and if that's what we're gonna get, the when I say diversity, I mean the different kinds of stories that they can delve into, and it's like when I read a lot of comic books, what I liked was the comic book stories weren't all the same stories. Otherwise, it would be boring. I mean, each comic book character was involved with different issues and different characters and different villains and had different concerns. So you were getting different flavors of stories if you read a lot of comics every month.
Yeah.
At one point, I mean, I was like buying 30 books a week, and I like diversity in storytelling.
And having a viewership right now on your channel, which isn't something I get as much, I have to say, I've always wanted to say this, that from the get-go, Anthony Mackie really made something special out of what could have been a very small, forgettable type of role.
Yep.
And he has just crushed it, especially right off the bat in the first movie. I love that he has his own show because he's been so good as like the sidekick to another character. I don't know. He's been killing it for me.
I agree with you. I think, I don't know if you've seen Benson and Moorhead's new movie Synchronic, but he stars in that, and I thought he was terrific. I mean, he's really, I think, a great actor. And what I love about him is even when we met him in Winter Soldier, he was immediately somebody that really endeared himself. He's got warmth and charm. He's not just a handsome actor, but he's got the heart that it takes to endear themselves to an audience. And he's a good actor, but you like him. I think there's an inherent kindness and humanness in him that, I mean, maybe not in real life. I don't know because I don't know him, but I've seen him and he's pretty damn funny in real life. But I think that there's something, he has an ineffable quality to him that really makes what he's doing work. And I'm sure that's why, and same with Sebastian Stan, and I'm sure that's why they even thought up, well, we should put these two characters together because they're making magic. And indeed, I think they do. But Anthony Mackie's the heart and soul of it's not called Winter Soldier and Falcon. It's called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. First time I saw him in something, first time I remember seeing him in something was The Hurt Locker. So you had Falcon and Hawkeye, in the movie together. But then I remembered he was the rap battle guy in 8 Mile, Curtis Hansen's 8 Mile. And I completely forgot about that. But I went back and watched that scene. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, and he's had a long time working, and he's been toiling away honing his craft. Yeah. So that's always a good thing.
He's got the charisma, man.
So let me ask you. I'll ask two questions. Darren, being a part of the Post-Geek Singularity, being a part of the community, working for the channel or whatever, what do you like the most about the Post-Geek singularity? What do you like the most about being a part of the community and the community itself?
It's interesting that you say that, because I was just about to say, I realize after this is done, I'm going to have to stop and rewind the whole video just to hear what Senator Gulp has to say. Because I can't hear his responses to you.
Right. You can't hear him because you don't have headphones on.
I can't hear him, so I'm kind of nodding as
but I can't hear his responses to you.
Oh, you guys, wait, you guys, you can't hear, you can't hear each other in, oh, right, because you both you don't have headphones on.
Yeah.
See. Yes.
It'd be interesting, though, to go back and see our responses.
Would that make a difference? Because I have headphones.
No, really?
I just didn't put them on.
Well, I'm thinking, so you don't have you when you hear the show, you're not hearing the show.
Well, I can hear you.
Yeah,
That's the most important thing.
There's a pretty big delay, so I usually just listen to the link that you send, the webcast. Yeah.
All right. Well, but let me ask, what do you think of being a part of the community, Darren?
I'm really enjoying it. I really am. I know it doesn't seem like I'm doing a whole lot right now, but just at minimal capacity, it's just great. I know we're expanding the network in the coming time.
Trying,
so we have a little bit more to do, and hopefully other people have a little bit more to do as well. But hey, a whole bunch of moderators come in, and more the merrier, and we get everything done, and everything's looked after, hopefully. And everybody is doing a wonderful job, the Richard, Jonathan, everybody.
Well, I mean, and also though the community itself, what's something that I could do to make the channel better? I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and you can be, if you want to be critical, you can. I'm genuinely interested, because aside from finishing the film festival, which I know I get hammered on that every day.
An anniversary of that thing going on very soon. You'll be time to start the next one.
Yeah, I know, right? No, because it's pushed. I won't start the short story competition officially
and the short stories are still going on as well.
Yeah, I haven't even made a video for that. But if there's anything that I can do better, I always want to know. Like, this is fun. Again, on Robservations, I've never done this before. I've never just had people come on the show randomly.
Oh, really?
It's fun.
This is the first time. You two are the first.
Anyway,
nice.
I do remember back in the chat of the moderators meeting a while ago, you said something about having interviewed someone or talked to some of the moderators on your show or a different episode of the show. Consider this number one off your bucket list.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. You're right. I did say that. I did say I would talk to moderators.
Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy the love. Enjoy the praise. Enjoy the fun.
Well, then, Len Cinema, let me ask you. I mean, you've been in the YouTube space for a while now. I mean, how do you see, what is the future of YouTube? And where do you see YouTube going? And where do you see this sort of entertainment punditry space heading?
Well, the thing that's changed a lot, and I think you've always been live on your shows, but that's something that wasn't always done. You remember, I mean, you used to do Heroes. The first time I ever saw you was on AMC Heroes with Schnapp. Right. That stuff was all pre-recorded. I know it was posted pretty quick. It was edited and thrown together pretty quick. But and nowadays it seems like live is where you go. And actually, people were telling us you should do live one for your 5-year. I'm like, no, because if no one watches, that'll be devastating. So we'd rather just edit it and put it out later. But that just seems to be the future of it right now, is a lot of posting live. And I can see a lot more GoPro type of equipment being incorporated with YouTube, where you're GoProing yourself, you're live on YouTube. I think Campia does that, or he used to before COVID. He used to do the 1-minute review walking out of the theater or something like that. But yeah, I guess with everything, Rob, it's you have to fast pace, you have to fast track everything. So the space is going to have to get quicker that way. We're kind of still old school, like Red Letter, where we put a show together and sometimes there's sketches in it, and then it takes me a week or something to edit it, and then we put it out. So yeah.
But that's a different kind of. Sorry, I literally was just getting a text from Scott Mantz.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he was.
Met him once.
Oh, I love Scott Mantz. I've known him for years. I love Scott. And he is a Trek, an Inglorious Trek-spert par excellence. He started his own Trek podcast.
He certainly is. Yeah, I met him at a Dazing Confused 25-year anniversary street food cinema event that he was moderating. So he was really cool.
Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that the live thing has always been, to me, that's what makes this fun, is interacting with people on a live. You know, it's funny, the first episode of Robservations I did was all pre-recorded. I went and visited my friend Greg Smith, and we went to his house in Olympia, and it was all cut together, and took me on and off. It took me 2 months to get it finally finished. And when I put it up, I mean, it did fine, but it was so much work that I thought I was going to make Robservations these documentary shows.
Yeah.
And I realized, I'm like, well, that's not going to work. It was just too much. What was interesting is you go live, and I'm really grappling with this issue in my own life personally. Here's some insight into me. I'm like, yeah, I've always wanted to make movies. I love making movies, but I worked on Tango Shalom on and off for 5 years. And now finally people are seeing it. But I mean, I can go and create, this is the 670th episode of this show. It has the channel has over 5 million views. And that's not even, some people get 5 million views on their videos, but for this channel, you know, and my subscribers I'll probably cross 40,000 subscribers in the next couple months. And hopefully by not sometime after the 700th episode, but that's 2.5 years of work, you know, and that's what people don't understand is, and I've seen people explode on YouTube. Like there's these two kids, twins, the new trend, who are looking at pop music. You know, they're going back and doing first-time reactions to songs. They exploded because they got picked up by Oprah or something, and now they have 500,000 subscribers. Man. You know, I don't think that would ever happen to me because of the way the format of the show is. But if I start cutting these things into short takes, you get up, and obviously it becomes an economic model as well. You know, the more subscribers, the more people see your stuff, the more advertising revenue you generate. That's also, I mean, I read that Jeffree Star, who I don't know if you guys know Jeffree Star, who was Jeffree Star Cosmetics, who was in a horrible car accident over the weekend. He has millions of followers. He has a cosmetics company. I read that in 2018 he made 18 million on YouTube in a year. 18 million. And you look at that stuff, and of course he's got his own cosmetic company, and he's got the youth of America and the world watching him. But it's just amazing. So how do I want to work on? I mean, working on Dota has been great, but even Dota I've been working on for 2 years. You know, and it comes out, and then you go on YouTube and you can reach 50,000 people with a decent video, or even more if I reviewed Duel of the Fates 2. I'm kidding. There is no Duel of the Fates 2. There's only one Duel of the Fates.
Can I ask you what you were using on Dota? Were you using Adobe or
yeah, we were using
mix
Premiere.
Of After Effects, or okay?
No, it was all Premiere.
It was all Premiere. Okay.
Because I was just editing all of the effects work, everything that was done, the animation effects was all done by Studio Mir in Korea. And
when I heard you describing your job title, it reminded, I got a credit in a film back in 2007 as a technical editor, which was kind of the same thing, putting in effect shots and putting in some compositing shots, and I remember digital flies and some digital heads. Yeah.
No, this is actually, it's just like coverage. You know, it's like you're getting all of the shots. It's just they're unfinished. So you're going from wide shots to close-ups and when people are talking. So it's literally like cutting feature, or it's like cutting a feature of television. It's just unfinished animated shots, which is kind of weird, but it's I like it. You know, I like it. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. And sometimes if Ashley didn't like the way we've also restructured scenes and done things, it's been interesting. So I've really enjoyed. I don't like Adobe Premiere, to be honest.
Really?
I don't. I think because from a professional standpoint, I know more and more people are using Adobe Premiere. I might shift over in terms of editorial to DaVinci, because DaVinci, like with Tango Shalom, we timed it, we graded it on DaVinci, and I didn't cut it on that, but they have an editorial component to their software now that's really great. But I think Premiere is overly complex, and there's just so many ways to do things that I guess if you learned on it, but I learned on Avid,
I learned on
And,
Avid.
I was an Avid editor that became a Final Cut editor, and I still I learned to like Final Cut X. But I think
I couldn't get into it. I was a Final Cut Pro 7 trainer from Apple, and once it went X, I couldn't get into it. I'm too much top to bottom, left to right editor.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't like it at all. But I get it.
It took a while. I mean, the last thing I did on Final Cut, I cut a couple of features on Final Cut 7, and we did all of the documentaries for the Star Trek and the Next Generation and Enterprise Blu-rays were finished in Final Cut 7. Well, listen, gentlemen.
Yes.
Oh no, I'm going to bring an end to this show. But I know, right? But I want to thank you both for being here as my first guests, live guests. Now, Cinema Gulp, where can people find your channel?
It's here on YouTube under Cinema Gulp. 5 years as of today. We have over 300 pieces of content. Check it out, man. We had kind of a fun time self-indulging today, talking about the journey of 5 years and, lacking a little bit on subs and viewership still, but just having fun doing this kind of stuff and getting able to talk to you and stuff. It's great. So
yeah, well, if it's not fun, you have to do it.
We wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't. Yeah. So.
And Darren, can people find you online?
Well, yeah, Facebook and my page and Instagram and a few other places. I'm usually hanging around somewhere. I used to have a YouTube channel, but it's pretty dormant. Oh, you could go there if you want to, but it's just like a couple of trailers and movie clips and nothing really major important. Man, it's too bad. But so much to talk about in so little time.
Well, we'll do it again. I'm
rewatching Snow Falling on Cedars.
Oh, okay.
Terrific movie, guys. Go see it. Go rent it. Buy it, whatever. Terrific
you romantic
movie.
You.
Yeah. It's also a very social conscious movies as well. It's into
true.
Subjects and
Cinema, what are you watching? What was the last thing you watched?
What did I watch? I can't remember. It was something I guess it was Godzilla vs. Kong because we did a review.
All right.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, it disappointed me a bit. A
lot of plot holes.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me here. I'm going to jump over and end the stream, but thank you both for being here. This was fun. You guys are my guests, live guests. I've had live guest interview subjects, but just randomly throwing out a link. I like doing this. I might start adding this component to the show.
Yeah,
I've got to talk to you twice in 3 days.
Assuming there's going to be more people coming in.
There will be more people coming in, but today, the two of you on the 670th show, there you go. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Marab.
I will bid you both farewell.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun having them come into the show. I did that for the very first time. I just randomly threw out at the Midnight Metal shows over the weekend. I just randomly threw out, "Hey, you can come on the show," and just to see who would, and it was great. I mean, it was really fun. Maybe I'll do more of that. Find out about Imagination Connoisseurs. I don't think I'm going to do it every day, but maybe if people like it, and if you actually, I don't know if I'll do it randomly or maybe ask people maybe beforehand. I kind of like doing it just randomly. But anyway. We have come to the end of Robservations episode number 670. I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel via tips and super chats and letters. If you want to send me letters, please write to me at theburnettwork.net, free of charge. And for those who want to join in the Zoom chat, you can become a member of the channel, even for $1 a month, if that's what you want to do. And I appreciate that support. Also, if you like these chats, hit like and, whatever. Like, subscribe, the bell thing. You hear it on every YouTube channel, but it's always helpful. For the show. I never really push that stuff, but lately I keep getting messages from the YouTube creator newsletter. Do that kind of stuff, so okay. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here. And once again, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And you know who I like to listen to? My moderators, as we just evidenced. I want to thank my moderating staff. I want to thank Mike Bodden and the Richard. I want to thank Joshua Levesque. I want to thank Darren Seeley. I want to thank Louise X Sparrow. We know why she's got the X. Have you heard that story? Brian Hepburn is here. And I think I've got everybody, but I want to thank you all for being here and being the great moderators that you are. And maybe Greg Smith's here, I don't know. But after that, I will say, as always, no, that's somebody else's. That's Matt Christensen's. And as always, I like Matt Christensen. I will say, have a better day.